In this quick tutorial, what we're going to talk about is how to connect to the remote desktop server while being able to have access to your local files on your local workstation, and then be able to copy and paste those files to the remote server from the remote desktop session. Kind of sounds like a little confusing way to do that, but I'll explain and we'll go through it. The files that I want to transfer, I'm on my local computer right now. What I want to put on the remote server is this index page and then the files that are associated with that. So the first thing we want to do is obviously go to mstsc. That'll fire that up. Now normally what we do is we just type in the IP address, which is right here, and click connect. But notice there's a button here that says options. And on the Macintosh client, it'll say something to that effect as well, options or features or something like that. So just press this button and then it opens up all these tabs for you. Okay, you can go through and you can fully customize your experience that you have with a remote desktop, but the one that we want to look at is not display, but it's local resources. Now, what's checked by default is printers and clipboard. Now, if you click on more, it's going to give you options for other things as well. And you can check ports, and so basically any port open on your local machine will be able to be mapped to the remote server. But the one that you really care about in this instance to get stuff from your local PC to your remote connection is drives. Now you can tell it to map individual drives if you want to. If there's a specific drive you want to map to that remote machine, you can do that. Or you can click here and notice it checks all the drives for you so that you don't have to worry about, you know, what something that comes in or comes out. Now if you use a USB memory device, you know, like a flash memory, you'll probably want to check this as well. And what that'll do is if you connect the remote desktop with all these things, options set, and your website is actually on a thumb drive or a flash drive, you can check that and it'll actually mount that flash drive or thumb drive to the remote server. Pretty cool, huh? Alright, but what I'm using is just going to be the C drive, the desktop of the C drive. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK here. That'll bring me back to my main screen. I'll go back to the General tab, make sure that 130.160.115.164 is still selected, and then I'll click connect. And connect. And I'll use my family username and the campus-wide ID plus #ABC. And then say yes here. And it may take a little bit longer to connect this time just because it has to map up all those drives. And so when you log in, you're thinking, well, nothing really looks different. I want to go ahead and put a because it crashed over the weekend, we've got to put this in. So, so I'm not going to worry about that right now. Okay. So where are the drives? Okay, how do we get to the drives in the local computer? Well, notice I'm in the remote session 130.160.115.164. Okay. We're going to click on Start and Computer, and what you should see is a whole bunch of drives here, and we do. If you see a whole bunch of drives, then you know you did those options correctly. If you don't, then you want to rewatch that beginning part of the video and make sure you got it right. So notice that I mapped all the drives on the computer. Okay. The only one that I care about is C on my local computer, which is 207-JC Davis. That's my local computer. Notice it says Other 12. Usually when it says Other, these are the remotely mapped drives. Okay, so C, of course, is the C drive on my computer. D is the D drive. E, F, G, etc. are all the drive letters on my machine, my local machine. So I'm going to double click on the C drive for my local machine. It shows me all the stuff there. I'm going to browse to the users folder, and I'm going to browse to the folder of the user that I'm logged into on my local machine. So on my local machine, I'm logged in as JC Davis. Notice that's different than what I logged into for the remote server. So this is where things can get a little confusing, so you want to keep track of where you are and what you're doing. So JC Davis, that's the username of my local machine. And I'm going to go to the desktop of that. And you'll notice now I see the index files folder and the index.html or index.htm. So those are the files from my local machine that are mapped to the remote server. Alright, but I've got to do something a little more, right? I've got to go now and go to the clay folder on the server. So, and I've got to put those files in my website folder so that when I browse to that site on the class server, all my stuff will be there. So what I've got here is on the right, I moved to the right, is I've got my website folder on the class server, and then here I've got files from the desktop on my local machine that have been mapped to the remote server. So let's just see if we can minimize this even more so that it's a little more clear what we've got here. We'll make this one a little bit smaller too. Alright, so here again on the left side I've got files from my local computer mapped to the server, index file and index.htm, which I'm going to copy over. And on the right I actually have the website folder underneath my username on the server. So now I'm going to take this and this. I just did a control click. Okay, let's watch that again. So click once and then control click, and you can get two things. If I wanted to select everything, I could click down here and then do a shift click, and that would select everything. But I'm just going to get this and then control click that. Okay, now I'm going to right click and copy, and then come over here, right click and paste. Alright, that was really fast because those are small files. If it had been megs or gigs, it would have taken, you know, you would have seen the little file dilly ball go from one side to the other. But since it was small stuff, no big deal. Okay, now is it really there? Well, let's go into CMonkey on the class server here and see if it's really there. May take it a second to start up here because, as we all know, the server went a little wonky over the weekend. Localhost squiggle clay, and I'm going to go ahead and preference index.htm because that's the name of the file that I pulled from my local machine. And you'll see that that's what I got. It's the AACE, Association for the Advancement of Computing and Education. Basically what I did was I just stole their index page, and then all the files, all the images and things like that are referenced in here. It just grabbed everything. I just basically copied their stuff. So this is their page, but I made a copy of it and just put it into my desktop. Then I copied it from the desktop to my website folder on the class server. And now when we browse in CMonkey, we see it. Everything's cool. Everything's good to go. Alright? So that, my friends, is how to take things from your local machine, map it through remote desktop, and actually copy it to the server. I'm going to go ahead and log off now.